The Heat fell apart against the Utah Jazz, a team that is actively trying to tank away the season, and I have no idea what to say about it, but you know what? We're going to try anyway.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang and become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. We're going to talk about Kasparas Jakucionis here in a second. We'll also get to some of our listener questions later on in the show. But, David, recording this after the Heat lost to a team trying to lose. The Miami Heat falling to the Jazz tonight, 115-111. I turned to you at the game. We're here at Kaseya Center. And I turned to you at the game at some point, and I asked you, like, are the Heat secretly out-tanking the Jazz? Because that was as bad of an effort as I can recall seeing from the Heat. This is a Jazz team that is actively losing games on purpose, sitting their best players down the stretches of these games. They sat their three best players against the Magic the other night in a pretty obvious tank job and a shameless one at that. And they didn't even wait until the fourth quarter in this one. With 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, both Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. were both off the court for the Jazz. And the Heat rallied back from 8 points down at that point, thanks to a Bam Adebayo spurt at the end of that third quarter, tie the game at one point, but still not enough. They lose this game in the fourth quarter. A potential Kasparas Jakucionis go-ahead three in the corner. Maybe that's different, but honestly, it should never have come down to that against this kind of team.
No, it's really strange to look at this team and to see what they were incapable of doing against a Utah Jazz group that was fielding players that might not be NBA starter quality players. Like, you don't want to knock an NBA level player, with the exception of Ace Bailey, a top draft pick. A lot of those players were not let's say, high pedigree or exactly considered to be stars in this league. They sat down Jaren Jackson. They sat down Lauri Markkanen. And without those two players, that's what Miami needed in order to just come back into this game. Look, second night of a back-to-back. Erik Spoelstra said after the game that the players were tired. They were gassed. Clearly, that was a problem. They have some players out due to injury. Norm Powell, Tyler Herro, of course. Kel'el Ware fouled out earlier in the game. So they were running a pretty ragtag group by the end of it. But they should never have been down that much in the same at the first place. That was just ridiculous to see this team completely fall apart there. And then to hold on to the lead and to just watch it slip away through their fingers late in the game, unbelievable. I'm kind of shocked, to be honest with you. We talked about what the approach to this episode would be because it could run the gamut of negative emotions here, and I guess I'm settling on shock more than anything else. There could be some frustration, some anger. Who knows? Maybe it'll all come out over the next 20 minutes.
It's only one way to find out. I hear that I hear Erik Spoelstra say the team is gassed at the end. 3 games in 4 nights, second night of back-to-back, all that stuff. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it as an excuse. You blow out the Wizards on a Sunday afternoon, a 2 o'clock p.m. tip, so you get a little bit more time than you usually would. Not only that, but because it was a blowout, your best players didn't play down the stretch of that game. Bam played a team-high 28 minutes against the Wizards. We're coming off that Wizards win being like, oh, this is the ideal way to start a back-to-back set, is you blow out this opponent and you don't have to play heavy minutes, and then you come out against Utah. And look, you could tell in the first half that Bam didn't really have his legs. I don't know. He looked tired. He wasn't playing with the same sort of hustle. Not to put it all on Bam, but he's like the guy, right? He's the poster boy of always playing hard and all that stuff. And if he wasn't doing it, maybe there is something to the fact that this team is gassed. But, man, it's February in the NBA. Everybody's tired. We're right before the All-Star break.
Yeah.
I'm just not buying that as an excuse against a Jazz team that is, again, actively trying to lose games. I think what really stuck out to me, not just the effort part of this too, was the offense.
Dismal.
This is a Jazz team that I understand starts big with Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Yusuf Nurkic in the front line now for a couple of games. This is the second game now that they've had Jackson since trading for him. I get it. It's a big lineup, okay? But they're not always that big. They play a lot of minutes with Kyle Filipowski at the 5, and even down the stretch when those guys were out, it was Filipowski at the 5 most of that game. And what I couldn't figure out was 48% of your field goal attempts in this game, if you're Miami, were from beyond the arc. 48% of your shot attempts were from 3. They were way over-reliant on threes against, a big Jazz team. But then you look at the Heat side of this, you're without your 2 best three-point shooters. You're without Tyler Herro. You're without Norm Powell in this game. Right. And if it wasn't mid-range shots, man, if it wasn't three-point shots, rather, it was mid-range shots. This team barely got to the rim. Fewer than 30% of their shots in this game were at the rim. And I don't care about the lineup size. I don't care. This Jazz team stinks. They stink on purpose. The fact that you could not get to the rim consistently, that's what stuck out to me about the offense.
Yeah, such a far cry from where they were at the beginning of the season, running those sets and trying to create those open looks and everything else like that. None of that mattered. It was basically dish the ball, have somebody kind of face up an opponent, a lot of one-on-one action. Maybe you'll drive. Maybe you'll just kind of swing it around there. Not really with any kind of intent. No backdoor cuts, no off-ball movement whatsoever. It was everybody just watching. Somebody would attack, maybe drive a little bit, and then kick it back out. Then they would rinse and repeat over and over again. It was 24 seconds of the same actions, and none of it led to either a wide-open look or any kind of easy shot at the rim. There was no mismatch that Miami could find nor take advantage of. It was just a really poor effort, and that offense just seemed like it was, I don't know. There wasn't anything that was actually any kind of semblance of a play. There was one out of bounds play that was designed, and it was a lob, I guess, at the rim for Bam Adebayo, and it wound up being a turnover. And luckily, they called a foul on that said turnover
on Isaiah Collier. Yeah.
Isaiah Collier.
There was one other one too that was designed to get Kel'el Ware like a pick and pop. I'm like, what? What are we doing? By the way, I mentioned that Herro and Powell are both out as your best three-point shooter. Your best three-point shooters in this game were Kasparas Jakucionis and Kel'el Ware, if you go by the season percentages. It was I could not figure out the offense. The only things that they went to down the stretch that worked kind of was they apparently liked the Andrew Wiggins versus Ace Bailey matchup. They continued to go at that over and over again. I can't say that it worked well because they lost the game. And then Bam against Kyle Filipowski. If the Heat won this game, I was going to joke to you, like, Filipowski gets all the credit cookies because he was just, like, Bam was awful in this game until he was going one-on-one against Filipowski at the end of the third quarter when the Jazz benched their best big men. So the gamut of emotions like you were talking about, shock, disappointment, anger. I mean, this is a team that has struggled basically since the start of the calendar year to win consecutive games. Since January 1st, they've won consecutive games just once all season long. And I asked Eric Spoelstra about it after the game, and his answer was basically like, I don't know, but we're going to try to figure it out.
Yeah, not exactly a great answer. Nothing quite clear there. And I can understand his frustration, but at some point, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it because it's not exactly like you can pinpoint a bad coaching decision from Eric Spoelstra or any one player. It was just the same thing over and over again. Nobody was able to get good looks. Nobody was able to dominate. Nobody was able to get to the rim with ease. And yet the game was there late in the fourth quarter, and you have a chance to pull out a win, and then you just kind of wind up falling apart. And look, credit to Jazz. They went with Collier late in the game, and he was attacking Kasparas Jakucionis over and over again, and it worked for the most part. Bryce Sensabaugh hits a 3-2, I think, late in the game. So it's just a strange loss for a team that has just been so inconsistent. Maybe it's not a strange loss. Maybe this is just what we should be coming to expect from this group, is that they're going to be inconsistent and you're never going to know what you get. As good as they were offensively against the Wizards on Sunday, they were the exact inverse of that against the Jazz on Monday.
There was one silver lining in this game. The rookie. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network, nearby, and has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens, makes you feel comfortable, and explains things clearly. That kind of doctor does exist, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering over 200 specialties, from primary care and dentistry to dermatology and eye care. ZocDoc makes the process simple. You can search by specialty or symptoms and actually build a care team that works for you. And you can see real-time availability and book instantly. No phone calls, no waiting on hold. You can also read verified patient reviews so you feel confident choosing a doctor you actually like. And whether you want to go in person or just do a video visit, ZocDoc makes it either way. Makes it easy either way. Stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. The new year's here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. And that's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh, all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room or organizing your space, maybe upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. I picked up a bunch of things recently in Wayfair. It completely changed how my place feels. It's cleaner, calmer, more put together, and it reflects my style. Shopping's easy, delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. It honestly made getting back into a routine this new year feel a lot more manageable. So get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
As you might have heard us mention on the show recently, we launched a new subscription program called the Everydayer Club that includes ad-free shows and access to a group chat for Heat fans on Discord. Well, this month we are launching an all-new, all-access tier as part of that program that includes even more. If you sign up, you're going to get the perks that I just mentioned, plus the ability to text me and David directly, submit questions for post-game shows like this one, and subscriber-exclusive episodes of Locked On Heat. The Daily Show isn't going anywhere. It'll always be free, and I can't thank you enough for being a listener and for supporting what we do here every day. But if you're looking for another way to support us, we'd love for you to check this out. If you're interested in being part of the Cookie Gang and joining the Everydayer Club, tap the link in the show notes or head to lockedonheat.supercast.com to learn more. In searching for a silver lining to this game, I think the one that pops out, obviously, is Kasparas Jakucionis. He has 20 points on 7 of 12 shooting. Put together a couple of really nice games against Washington, and then this one against Utah. There was a point where he made, if you look at the Washington game and then this one, 9 straight three-pointers through basically 5 quarters. That three ball is really starting to fall, except for the one at the very end, a potential go-ahead shot from the corner with 3 seconds left. I can't say, though, that I was surprised that they ran it for him the way that he was playing. He was Miami's best offensive weapon, best shooter in this game.
I'm a little surprised. He's 19 years old, and it's not like he's a top draft pick and you're kind of a tanking team or a team that's near the bottom of the lottery or anything like that, and you're kind of looking for a savior or somebody to build upon. This is not Cooper Flagg in Dallas or anything like that. This is a guy who's just recently started to crack the rotation and become much more of a reliable shooter, and yet, to your point, he has been playing it excellently, and I think he just looks really comfortable shooting the ball, but that last shot in particular, defended well, was a little rushed. I'm a little surprised. I think he might have been a little bit caught off guard by the fact that they ran that play for him. I told you before the play ran that I thought they were going to go to Wiggins with the 3-ball. We've seen him take that shot before. I thought it was a more obvious choice as far as getting a veteran, a guy who's been there and been able to take that shot. But you know what? Maybe Spo wanted to see what the kid has available and whether or not he feels comfortable taking that shot, because that's where you start to build your kind of reputation, or maybe even start to gain the confidence that you need moving forward as a guy who's going to be a longtime starter in this league. But
well, I think the other part of this, too, is we recently saw Spo draw it up for Davion Mitchell in a corner 3 at the end of the game. What game was that? The Celtics game, I think?
Yeah.
I think he's just looking to see, hey, an open shot is an open shot. Given that they're probably going to put their best, quote-unquote, best guy that they had out there, their best defender on Wiggins, I think that's why maybe they draw it up for Jakucionis. He was also, it was an easy pass in the corner. It was there. Maybe a little surprised that he got it. But, I mean, you look at who was shooting in this game. I mean, he was He was 6 of 9 at that point from 3-point range.
Yeah.
Wiggs was 4 for 11. Bam was 1 for 5. Kel'el, who had fouled out at that point, was 1 for 4. Simone even was 1 for 6. I mean, they didn't have a lot of great options. And
No, they didn't.
And so maybe that's what it was. But also maybe to your point, too, it was a good chance to kind of give him that opportunity. But in terms of just the game overall now, it's been 2 really solid games, I think, for Kaz in a row. And he's been, among Miami's best offensive players during this stretch.
Yeah, I think that's been pretty obvious. He continues to look very comfortable in that role as a playmaker. He's still a little wild in some passes, but scoring-wise, he doesn't shy away from taking those shots. He looks like he's almost calling for it at some occasions, like when the ball does find him, he's letting it fly, and he's not hesitating or anything like that. I don't think that's the same player that we saw at the beginning of the year. Certainly not what we saw from him in Summer League when it was so vastly different. He was coming back from injury. He didn't seem like he was in any kind of a rhythm at all. It didn't seem like he was comfortable offensively. The speed of the game hasn't bothered him. He's adjusted. He's learning, and he looks fantastic out there in terms of just the ability to continue to evolve and develop. It's been a great rookie season for him. I'm really bullish on what I've seen from him of late, and I think he has some star potential there. Maybe it's a little bit early. You know what? I know we've done this in the past with guys like Jaime Jaquez and others, so I'm going to hesitate and put the brakes on that a little bit, but I do like what I see from him in terms of bringing that size, bringing the ability offensively. I do have some concerns about what he does defensively, but in terms of his overall temperament, he doesn't shy away from it. He doesn't mind being physical with opponents and guarding them. He took a shot to the face today, kind of Pelle Larsson-esque, and that's another guy who was out, by the way. Larsson did not play, so again, missing some key players. I get it. The rotation was a little wonky, but Kasparas made the most of his opportunity, and I think he should be a part of the rotation moving forward.
Yeah, I think my favorite part is he had 2 offensive rebounds in this game. Kel'el had 0. That's my favorite, maybe my least favorite part combined of this game. He there's a physicality that Kasparas plays with that even when you and I did our Blue Notebook scouting report on him that I didn't pick up in the film session. And I don't know if he had it in Illinois, if it's just, there's more of it now that he's playing for the Miami Heat, the NBA level, but there's a physicality that he plays with that I think is a really good fit, and it's the kind of thing that you want for, there's point guards with size that don't necessarily use their size. He uses his size in terms of his vision and getting the rebounds. And then his chutzpah to just shoot whatever shot he gets, he just lets it fly from 3. I have it in my notes, David. I'm like, hints of rookie Tyler Hero a little bit? Just the audacity to just go ahead and shoot the ball every time he's open?
Yeah, I guess I would say the difference was that Tyler was hitting a lot of those shots late in games, and he was a guy who earned that reputation of being somewhat clutch, especially his rookie season. So I'm not quite there yet, but the willingness, hints. The willingness to take that shot is huge. And again, I think he's developed well, and a far cry from what we saw earlier in the year. When he was first drafted, he looked shaky. He wasn't quite comfortable coming back from injury. There were moments there where you saw some really nice passing chops, some playmaking ability, but the offense was erratic at best and non-existent at worst. Yeah. This is a completely different player. He's really put in the work, and you can tell that. And I do like that physicality, though, because he does have the size, the speed. It's a great combination for such a young player. And as long as he continues to develop, and there's no reason why he shouldn't physically, I think he's going to continue to be even more impactful later on in his career. So I think we're seeing the start of what could be and what I think is likely to be a burgeoning NBA career.
The other, I guess, takeaway from this game was that Eric Spoelstra started the lineup of Bam Adebayo and Kel'el Ware.
I'm a little surprised at that, too.
I mean, you look at the matchup against Utah. They're starting Nurkic, Jackson, and Markkanen. So Eric Spoelstra has talked about this before the game, about how this might be a little bit more matchup-based at this point. And that's what we saw in this one. However, unlike against the Wizards, it was not good and not effective in this game. That team that duo got outscored. They got out-rebounded. You want to start big, you want to play that big lineup because you want to dominate the boards, and the Heat got dominated on the boards in this game. So you want to see more. And then Kel'el Ware, like you mentioned before, ends up fouling out in this game. So it wasn't a great game for him. It wasn't a great game for Bam either. But it was, at least a takeaway here that Eric Spoelstra went back to that.
Yeah.
Is he going to stick with it going forward? I think that, again, will probably be more determined on the matchups, at least for now.
Yeah, I don't know that he had any kind of negative take on it necessarily after the game. I think my take, and at least from what I saw, was the lineup was working. They took Bam out, and Miami had a comfortable lead at that point early in the game. And then once they took Bam out, that's when the kind of lead eroded. Between Bam and then Kel'el sits, then they bring in Niko Jovic, and that's when things started kind of falling apart.
Yeah,
there.
Nico coming in as the backup 5, so the definitely trying some different things, really big and then really small. I get it. Spo mentioned that they want to test some lineups. Again, it's a little quiet, trying to maybe.
You want to talk about that? Like this, you really think that there's a soft tank? Because we just had an episode where we kind of address Eric Spoelstra's quote, where he says, "That's not how we do things. If you want to complain about it, whatever." Where people
They don't do it the way the Jazz do it. Maybe they do it
much more subtly
in their own different way. We have a question about it.
Okay.
I want to get to that. Plus, we have another question about whether the Heat need to make a roster addition ASAP. We'll talk about all of that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. And they handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get you every possible deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right on the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver, and it gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today.
Let's go to the questions from the Cookie Gang. You can submit questions for post-game shows like this by joining the Everydayer Club. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Jonah writes in, not only will the front office not embrace the tank for philosophical reasons, but they also have a lottery-protected first next year. If we're as bad as we look and get a lottery pick in a known terrible draft class, they are basically forced to be bad again with an unprotected 2028 first. This franchise is in a really, really tough spot. We need to try to remain competitive in the East, where many bad teams are taking steps forward while we are being left in the dust. This is sort of the question I wanted to get to in terms of the tank here, because if the Heat were going to tank, it would at least appear that this would be the year to do it, because you have your own pick in 2026, and not only is this draft class and people like this draft class quite a bit,
right,
but also if you have a really nice pick in this draft class, that might help you sweeten a trade package for somebody like a Giannis or Donovan Mitchell or something like that this summer. If the Heat were to tank, this would be the year to do it. I was joking before. Do I really think that the Heat are quietly, subtly tanking? No, I do not. Do I find it interesting that Eric Spoelstra is choosing now to experiment with lineups? A little bit. Will I ask myself another question and answer it? No, I will not.
Nice. Look, I think a lot of it has to do with missing two starters, a third starter in Pelle Larsson, and Kel'el getting into foul trouble.
That's right.
There's a experimentation kind of by that's
forced,
forced to do so. So I don't know. I don't see that as a tanking situation. I thought maybe if they had sat out Bam for the rest of the fourth quarter, that might have been the case. But he did come into late into the game with about 5 minutes left or so. And at that point in time, it was clear that Miami wanted to find a way to win this. So. But I'll repeat what we said before. It shouldn't have come to this point because Utah clearly wanted to sit their players and clearly wanted to lose the game, and yet they wound up winning it, unfortunately, for Utah Jazz fans because they don't want to win any more games, and Miami fans want the team to win, or the front office certainly wants to win games, and they wind up losing them anyway. So a tough game to kind of understand and wrap your mind around because I think everything should have played out the way it did. Again, I don't think it's part of a tank. I get the overall point of wanting to secure a good draft pick, but I don't think this team has ever operated with that kind of understanding or that kind of process.
Antonio writes in, are there any rules against the Jazz not playing their starters in the fourth quarter? And is there any timetable for Tyler's return? Let's talk about the Tyler Herro one first. Eric Spoelstra was asked about this before the game, and he said nope. So there's that. Antonio, the other question that Antonio has is the rules against the Jazz not playing starters in the fourth quarter? Nope.
Yeah, the Herro part, again, you and I were talking about it, and I think he was asked by Anthony Chang of the Miami Herald about it. Maybe I would expect if there's going to be any kind of time frame, probably after the All-Star break. They're not going to rush him back before that, and he doesn't seem like he's ready to go. So no time frame at all is what Eric said. Maybe he'll take the extra time off and he'll start working his way back. Who knows at this point? And yeah, as far as the Jazz are concerned, what are they? I mean, there's an unwritten rule from the NBA that they want every team to be competitive, and yet every team kind of wipes their butt with it and does whatever they want to anyway.
We saw Toronto do this last year, right? I mean, this is the way. This is actually the way to avoid the rule, right? The competition committee rules is they don't like when you just bench your players with fake injuries and stuff like that. But it's like, hey, we played our guys. Like, these guys played 20-plus minutes. What do you mean?
Right.
Like, we just thought this was the best lineup to go with in the fourth quarter, you know?
And
in a game like this, the Jazz have a point. They're like, look, we won the game. Like, what are you going to say? We won the game.
Liked it. We played our top 5 pick in Ace Bailey. We got our high-energy group off the bench. I liked the energy that they were bringing, and we wound up winning it anyway.
We rode the high end.
Thanks.
Malachi writes in, why is Rozier still on this Heat team? Why are they wasting his spot on the roster? We need another big on this team so we don't have to rely on Jovic as a third big because he's been terrible all season. Zay writes in, should we sign a big for extra support? Getting out rebounded by these bigger teams is annoying. The Rozier part. First of all, I don't expect him to finish the year on the roster. And
wouldn't they have done it by now? Are they kind of just holding off in the hope that maybe the NBA says, all right, you guys have suffered
So the thing
enough.
is, if they waive Rozier, then they have 13 players under contract, and then they're on the clock. You have the 20 whatever days it is to then go and sign a player. If they wanted to add somebody, they could do that now. They have a roster spot.
And we talked about that recently after the trade deadline.
They have 14 guys on standing contract. If they want to go add somebody, they could do that now. Now, maybe there's nobody out there that they think they want to get. You could start signing guys to 10-day contracts here pretty soon. And then, but they're also probably monitoring the buyout market. Whoever's waived by March 1st can sign to teams that, and then participate in the playoffs, which is still the idea for the Miami Heat.
I think there's a center or a forward on the Utah Jazz roster who might get waived. The Kevin Love reunion, you think?
I thought about it. I have them written down in my notes right here. I have 3 names. Kevin Love is one of them.
Walker Kessler, another one?
No, I wish. No, the other 2 are DeAndre Jordan and Mason Plumlee.
You finally got a plum dog on this roster.
Those are the options, folks.
You've been wanting that for
so
a
you're
while.
Like, why aren't the Heat doing anything? That's why. Right there. Yeah. William writes in, I'm not sure the Bucks are going to want to trade for any of our players for Giannis. To act like we have a play on Giannis this summer, like the Bucks will actually want any of these guys on their team, is bold-faced insanity.
Yes.
Seems pretty extreme coming off of a loss. I mean, there are times where Kel'el Ware looks like one of the best 15 centers in the league. There are times where Kasparas Jakucionis, like in this game, looks like a real thing. Jaime Jaquez Jr. is still in the running for 6th man of the year. I don't want to make those rulings after a loss like this.
You're right. I get it. At the same time, it kind of almost feels sometimes like even covering this team, maybe we're a little bit too close to it, and you see what the players are capable of. You see their warts, you see their strengths, and everything in between. And other teams don't have that advantage. For as much as they scout other players and opposing teams as well as they possibly can, I think there's also a reputation about Miami Heat players and whether or not they excel here. And look, nobody's exactly popping from this roster. I mean, there are players that have good games and then equally bad games. So I think it's fair to say that Miami's trade package isn't a very good one, and that maybe we, even as much as the front office, might be overvaluing these players to a certain degree, because I think that's a lot of the perspective I'm seeing following the trade deadline is that Giannis, whether he was actually available or not, maybe he would have been made available had Miami had a decent return. And whatever we thought was a decent return, you and I personally, perhaps Milwaukee did not agree as far as their value is concerned.
I do think that Giannis was available. I don't think that the Bucks. There's reports that the Bucks really considered Miami's offer. I think that's a little overstated. I think they considered it, but I don't think they were moved by it in a way that necessarily made them have to trade Giannis now, where they could just do it over, because they know that package isn't going anywhere. That package will still be there over the summer if they want it. So the main parts of that package, I should say.
There's a problem with the Herro being the centerpiece of the package, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's another guy, right? We could talk about Kel'el and Jaime and all these other guys, but the other big centerpiece of this package has barely played this season, so that's another part of that too. So, I think the Bucks know like that. If we want that stuff, it'll still be there over the summer. Maybe ultimately it does end up being good enough when the Bucks really are up against the clock and do really have to make a decision, because frankly they just didn't have to make that decision by this trade deadline. That'll do it for us today. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Heat. Make sure you subscribe, follow Locked On Heat so you get all the latest episodes. We'll talk to you again soon.